This show is listener supported. You're listening to Adoptees On, the podcast where adoptees discuss the adoption experience. This is season 4, episode 18, Mom. I'm your host, Haley Radke, and this is my brother, Daniel.
Today, my mom's going to talk with us about what her reunion experience was like. Haley and Mom discuss how their expectations were different, what made the reunion hardest for Mom, and how we all went through some very rocky times together and what ultimately brought us to a healthy reunion. Links to all the things they'll be talking about today are on the website, adopteeson.com. Let's listen in.
Oh, and I have to tell you, you've got to listen to the end because I have a little mini interview with Daniel, so don't miss that. I am so pleased to welcome to Adoptees On, Linda Wack. Welcome.
Thank you, Haley. Hello.
Hi. So I don't usually call you that. I usually call you Mom.
Yes.
Would you like to explain who you are to me?
I would be happy to do that. Haley, I am your biological father's wife.
And so that's how you made it on the show, because you're not adopted.
No, I am not adopted, but I've been immersed in the adoptee world now for some time.
Do you listen to my show? I don't know if I ever asked you that.
I do. I do listen to it every Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Every Friday. Okay. I did not know that. Okay. So I'm starting out a little nervous. I'm being totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you to do this a long time ago, and we even had one booked and we rescheduled, and I'm just anxious about it because I think we're going to touch on some things that will be pretty personal.
Mm-hmm.
And reunion was a little rocky for us in the beginning, and now we're in such a good place. So there's like that anxiety, right? That something we say is going to hurt feelings or whatever. So just setting it up that we're going to talk about lots of things, but try not to take it personal.
Yeah, because Haley, that's exactly the same for me. My fear in doing this interview is that things that I will share will actually hurt you. And it's not my intention to bring you pain. And when I was thinking about this time we would have together, I wanted to make it really, really clear that it was the experience, but never you that brought the pain. In fact, I could not have a more beautiful, person to come into our lives in that way. How you were very considerate of my feelings, and you always have been. Regardless of that, though, there was still some stuff, and it was, so I will share what I can, because it's my hope, Haley, that this might help somebody else going through the very same thing as I.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is just before we kind of get started of the history and that thing, something that's been on my heart is the adoptees who search for their biological fathers and are rejected, and they're not there's not even a response many times. And you've had guests on your show, and breaks my heart because I'm really convinced it isn't the fathers, but it's the wives who are, the spouses of these fathers that have it, because it can be pretty intimidating, and this is what I've always thought, and so I just wanted those dear souls this has happened to understand that there's a really good chance that it's not the dads, it's not the fathers, but it's the wives. So and I'll touch on more about that. As I
definitely
delve into the history.
Yeah. Well, I haven't really shared much of my our reunion story on the show before, but I would love to hear it from your perspective. I lived it, so to me it's old news, but
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I'll start at the very beginning, way back in the 80s. So your dad and I were friends since we were 12 years old. So when you came along, and I knew about you that long ago. We were just friends, and it wasn't many years later. We married when we were both 26, and of course, your dad was 17 when you were born. So I always knew about you. I knew that you were a girl, and in the back of my mind, I always expected that you would come around, and I welcomed it. It was going to be. I wondered, would it be a knock at the door? Would I, But I knew that this likely would happen at some time in our lives. Mostly because you were a girl, and girls would tend to search in my head. This was
Mhm.
sort of what I thought. So when you did reach out to your dad on Facebook, I wasn't surprised. Thank goodness that I knew about you. My heart goes to those couples that the wives, have no idea. And for that matter, with genetic testing, sometimes the fathers have no idea either,
Mhm.
right? This is a complete surprise. Hi, here I am.
Mhm.
So I knew. And I guess as you know the story, your dad, you reached out to your dad, I don't know, sometime in January, I think, and it wasn't till 6 weeks later that he replied. Well, I don't know if you know this, but he didn't till 5 weeks and 6 days later. He held this knowledge inside that whole time because, what was I going to say? How would I react? Oh, I mean, it brought along lots.
Mhm.
So I did find out, and I was actually sitting just as I am right now. He came in, he told me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. What do you mean you haven't responded? Do it. Go and tell her yes." I was very, I was very excited, and so he obviously did. And gosh, what was it? Another 6 weeks later, and you had flown out here.
It was pretty fast.
It
Yep.
was very fast, yeah. And prior to that, though, in those 6 weeks, I became an emotional basket case. And there was so much going on. We told the kids at that time.
And they were age, what, 9 to 15? 9 to
Yeah,
s yeah, okay.
that's exactly right. 9, yeah, 12 and 14. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So we had to tell them, and we told them really fast. Within days of your first contact, I remembered you being quite surprised that we had already told them. And there's lots of reasons for that. I am not a good, I'm not a secret keeper is not what I'm meaning. If you tell me something, I would keep it secret. It is, I do not like family secrets. It was heavy. It was a burden on me that the kids didn't know something that I was already talking to my mom about and my own dad. And, guess what? And so, her name is Haley and she's come, it's Kevin's daughter. And so that happened really quickly. And then I don't remember, Haley, in that time. All I know is it started. Oh, I think you might have emailed me, and I guess nobody could have prepared me for the idea, or that you would want to be part of the family, that you were wanting, that this is my dad, this is my brother, and these are my sisters, that's in your mind, You wanted to come right in, and you found us and you claimed us. Oh my goodness, Haley, nobody could have prepared me. So when I had said yes, I had not said yes to that. I said yes to, of course, she wants to know what you look like. Of course, she wants to, have a general idea of her roots. I had no idea that that was what I was saying yes to. Because your dad, on the other hand, had that was his idea. That, once he said yes to have you part of our family, it was going to be full on. It would be whatever you would desire. He wasn't going to turn his back on that anymore. So these are the little things that you probably never knew, but we
No.
dealt with that continuously. He said, you said yes. What are you, the battle? I didn't say yes to this. I didn't say yes. Yes, you did. No, I didn't. This was not what I was at. And so, just for your listeners to know, I have quite a deep faith, in God, and I think it was divine providence that held that from me. That full knowledge of what would happen when you came into our family, that, that was what you wanted, the full meal deal. Because had I known that, Haley, I might have said no, 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 because it's the strangest thing. Becomes it feels threatening. Um, it felt like the family was vulnerable to this unknown person, coming into our lives. It was and the reactions to of my friends. Most of them, Haley, said, "No way, don't even." They couldn't believe. So my banter, if you will, when I spoke about the reunion. Did you know she wants to be like right into our family? Like she wants to be like the fourth child. And, and everybody, oh my, they're gasping. You're kidding me. Oh my gosh, how can you deal with this? I would never let that happen. And it would just, oh my gosh, Haley. And the reason all that went on is it's just how naive we are about all that you guys and you have been through. Naturally, you want that's we're your family. They're, your brothers, your sisters, your father, and you never had that. But in the beginning, not knowing any of those things, it took me by surprise.
Well, can I pause you there?
Yes.
Because you said you kind of always thought that I would come back and I would look and so like you're describing that and to me I'm like, well, of course that's what it means that you would get to know each other and for you it was of course she's going to want to know what, maybe medical history and some family pictures and maybe here's a family tree. But not a relationship.
Right. And if there was a relationship, it would be more like a niece. Or it would be more like extended family.
Superficial kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Because I always tease your dad, I'm more fond and I'm more in love with his nieces and nephews on the wax side than he is. I love them. Like I'm just with, Jill and all, look, they're just and I remembered telling the children, it'll be like having a cousin, like somebody like Alyssa, or she'll just be, yeah, no, I never imagined it would be your to want to be part of the family. So that was the first surprise.
And so and just let's I want to hear a little bit more about what your friends were telling you.
Yes.
So you're telling them, here's the daughter back from and she's an adult and how old was I? Was I 27? How old am I now?
You were.
I was
You were
27.
27. Yeah.
And So were they saying, okay, you have to stop this? Like what exactly did they say to you?
Well, I know one friend said she would never, no way in a bazillion years would she allow this woman uh, to be in a relationship with her children. Yeah. Um,
Oh.
Other people, a lot of it is as mothers, we're just protecting our own children.
Mhm.
And, I think that was it. But a lot of them were, why would she want to? She already got a family.
Mm.
so, so those are just, it's just the, yeah, not understanding the plight of an adoptee, that people really have no idea that it's a deep desire, to get to know your people or to find them and to bond with them.
Mhm.
And most of us had no clue that was even a thing. And so that I'm quite a um oh gosh, I tend to just go with the flow as much as I can. I certainly don't. So I was struggling with coming to an understanding of where you wanted to be in the family, and grieving the loss of my own little family, because by your being part of it, it was no longer mine. It's just funny how the feelings will take over. I mean, none of this makes sense at all in the brain. I mean, I was not losing my family. I was not, you were not threatening. There was nothing to be concerned about, yet my feelings um, were, were very concerned, and I felt like I was being left out, knowing full well you wouldn't care an iota about me. I'm no blood to you. So it would be all about your dad, all about, the kids, the three, and I was going to be the outsider. And then initially it started out where you were having getting to know the kids through email, and and your dad, and we hadn't really connected, or quite at that time yet. And oh yeah, it was extremely hard. So I was dealing with yeah, I was grieving my own family, losing what I projected to be the family dynamics for all of our lives, and just losing that. And it was, yeah, I didn't know where to really go with that. I just knew that I just had to, um, that no, I remembered, Haley, I wanted to be accepting of you. Like, I wanted to embrace. I really did. It was so painful. It was
Mhm.
just beyond. Underlying your reunion with your dad was this tension in the house that your poor dad dealt with, like, unbelievable emotion in that time, because he was dealing with me, and what I was going through, and then with finding you, and all that entailed. And yeah, so I have to say that, yeah, was one of the biggest surprises. I never imagined in a million years you wanted to be part of us. Like, it just so, you know obviously that was 8 years ago, right? That,
Yeah.
or 7 years ago. So much has obviously has
Yeah.
changed since then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious about some of that time because as you got to know me and,
Mm-hmm.
I also have a strong faith and we had that in common, which I think was really important to both of us. And I wasn't like looking for money and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like a creepy person.
Mm-hmm.
As you found out more about my personality, did any of those things be like,
Mm.
okay, she's not crazy? Like, how
Mhm.
did that work? I don't know.
Oh, that's a really good question. That I too, after I got to know you and that we were building our own relationship, I was falling in love with you too, just like your dad, And I was thinking, oh my goodness, you are so amazing. And oh, this is a dream for me. I wanted a big family. And, I have one more child I can love and bring into the family. And then you were married. So, like a son in law. And so all these things were really good. So there was a honeymoon period for me as well. It was a little bit later. And I don't want to skip too many things, but there was a part, Haley, remember when things started to get a little rough? And maybe I will just say it felt that we weren't able to meet your emotional needs, and there was a little bit of a struggle, and it was you were needing more, and
Oh yeah.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I remembered at that time. Then I started. Two things happened after that. I'm going to explain. So first, that one where I was seeing a different side to you, having no clue that is a normal adoptee phase that happens. I did not know that. I thought you are just a spoiled brat. And
Okay, so
I
let's wait there. Just so I can say, like, I mean, I think there's a part where you basically regress, like you go back and you behave like a child because you are literally building this like parent-child relationship, and I don't know, things just kind of go nutty sometimes. But so that's a fair characterization of, I'm sure, what I was doing. So go on.
it and totally. I mean, when I'm I'm really exaggerating the spoiled brat part. Do you know what I mean? I thought, oh my goodness. So suddenly it became a little bit harder to love you as a child, as the fourth child,
Mhm.
because then every mother will say you love your kids good or bad, or you just love them. A mother's love is always there. Well, I'd known you 2-3 months, right? And so we were building this relationship, so that made it a little more difficult.
Mhm.
I am so glad that we got through that, because I wonder, Haley, how many times reunions end there, because it can become so painful and so hard, it almost to walk away.
Mhm.
It isn't, I mean, in the end, but yeah, at that moment. And the other thing that happened that made it a little more challenging for me after our little honeymoon period, Haley, and sounds so, I feel so badly that I put so many demands on you. You were already dealing with so much emotions, and I feel like at the very beginning I was forcing myself on you. So if Dad was going to be your dad, then I'm going to be mother here. I didn't. I felt like I was kind of forcing my way into your life. So with that said, this is why I'm saying this. So when you would come for the weekends, and especially I think the very first time you came, obviously it was such an emotional weekend. And or no, it wouldn't have been the first weekend because it was so beautiful. Maybe it was the second or the third time you would come. I started to realize I didn't really measure up to attention from you or Nick. It was all Kevin. It was all your dad. It was just you were even Nick was quite enthralled, and he would watch Kevin, your dad in the like, and you while you were so, and I realized then I thought I will never get the love like that, you know, Kevin will get. I will never, and I think there was a time that I started to shut down a little bit because, I have my own baggage that I deal with, and being vulnerable is very hard for me. So I would sooner close down to not allow me than to be second best and second fiddle. So there was a couple things that happened for me, and oh my goodness. And I I look back now, and of course you're going to be enthralled with your birth dad. Of course, there were so it's so, of course that's so natural. But at the same time, the dynamics of the whole family is you couldn't possibly know that I was dealing with my own insecurities, my own wounds, and in need of my own healing as well. So by your coming into our lives, into my life, those wounds opened up for me too. And so I became this basket case. It would have been around August. And that would have been what, 4 months after, 5 months into the relationship.
Yeah, 5 months, I think. Yeah.
And I don't know that you know this. I don't think so, because who's going to tell you? Not your dad. So I'm sure you don't know this. But it was really scary in August for me. And I was dealing with so much that I was wanting to pull the plug and just say, I can't, this is not fair to me. This is not what I envisioned. I can't do this anymore. If it had not been for June, who was the counselor who was trained and specialized in adoptee reunions, I do not know where we would be.
So I was seeing June. She was mine first. And then I think what did she do? One session with you guys on your own, like by phone, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was, oh, that's right. We did it one session on the phone. And didn't we see her in person, Dad and I? That was the weekend of your birthday. That was around that time.
You guys went and saw her. Yep.
We went in person.
Yep. And then I know the four of us, like Nick and I, were on the phone with you. Like we were in June's office on the phone with you guys for sure one time. I don't know if we did it twice, but for sure one time. So there was several sessions that were like pivotal. It wasn't like we went to 20 sessions or anything. It was just several. So, okay.
So with that, the very first session with June, this is what she said. You'll agree with me with the truth in this. You, as the adoptee, have experienced the most trauma. So my emotions and Dad's emotions didn't count. She basically said they did count. We had to make a relationship, but that in fact, and that was good for me to understand. And by then I'd been reading, was it the Primal Wound? Pages from that you had.
I sent you the reunion chapter from Coming Home to Self by Nancy Verrier. So that's her second, big tome on adoption. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was familiar, with what you had gone through. And and that's what so made it worse sometimes. It was like, I know what, I wanted to embrace you, and yet I couldn't because it meant so many things. It felt like I was losing everything. And then I'll touch on, please remind me, Haley, after I talk about what June says about how it felt about you and your dad. So that's really important. I know Nick touched on it, and it needs to be I really want to share that part. But so she did say that, and so, but what she also said, Haley, she said that for the entire reunion and for all the members of the family, it was the hardest for me, and it would be the hardest for me forever, because of the dynamics. You're a girl, he's a man. Your dad's the father daughter, and then I'm the matriarch. She said by far, and so that was comforting to help me understand. Okay, I'm not losing my mind. Other people have gone through this. This is going to be hard, and when we implemented the June rules, which you love so much.
Oh my gosh.
It was so hard. I know. But Haley, that saved our relationship.
Oh yeah,
It
100%.
absolutely did. I know how hard it was, but prior to that happening, you were everywhere. It was just, I couldn't take it, because even after Dad had written the book, and I found out that you edited it, I got so angry. I mean, can you imagine? But I just said, she's just everywhere.
I get it. Yeah.
She's everywhere. I just want my family back, because I felt like I was losing them, and I you were, and these are the things, Haley, that I'm sharing, that I don't want this to hurt you, because it was never you. In fact, just so you understand, every time we physically were together, it was so good for me. Everything settled down, all my fears, and I was able to really just love you and think you were the most amazing thing. When we would be apart and we live, 12 hours away, so that would happen, things would start to escalate, and my brain would start playing all these tricks, and so then you became, I kind of demonized you again. It's weird how it would happen. And then we would get together again for a weekend or a time, and it would all go away every single time. Mm-hmm. So I knew that it would just be a matter of time before. And then I went for counseling myself, and then not with June, but to kind of deal with my own things. And then your dad and I went to counseling, because this was extremely, it brought a lot of stress to our marriage. It was absolutely pretty hard. So with that said, this leads to the next part of the reunion, and it's something that Nick had shared. And
tell me what Nick shared.
I completely agreed. The part of the challenge with the reunion being the dynamics that you're the daughter, your dad's the dad, is that it felt to me like it was an affair. Oh, that was so painful. It was so painful. For example, I can't even believe that we actually shared the same email 7 years ago. Like, it seems unthinkable now. I would never share an email with your dad. Like, that's ridiculous. But at that time, we did share an email, and he had his work email. Something as little as, he didn't even realize he'd done this, but he took you emailing through our joint email, and he gave you his work email. And your correspondence was mostly, well, no, not mostly, it was all done via his work email from really early, like a week in or something. And obviously there was obvious reasons. I get it. He was emailing you. You were emailing back and forth continuously, daily, for sure,
Oh my gosh. It was so much. Yep.
It was so much. And he simply couldn't do that just in the house when he got home at 6 and, he's in bed at 8. And so he simply, it was logical for him. But for me, I was being pushed out of the relationship. And that's why, if you remember, so often at the beginning, it was the us, we want to talk to you, or we want to visit. And You poor thing, you needed time with your dad alone, time to talk to him alone, time to, be alone with him. And I understand that. I didn't then. It was frightening because why was it frightening? I was seeing your dad respond to you in ways I'd never seen. He would tell you things, the most beautiful, heartfelt words. Like one I recall, he said to you something about you and Nick driving home from, I don't know, outside of Calgary. And he says, precious cargo, be careful, or he has precious cargo, and he's referring to you, and oh my gosh, I never heard words like this as his wife. And my love language is words. And to hear and to read the most beautiful words being told to you on our trip on the plane to Germany. You were course texting back and forth, and I think he said something about, if you were saying something to him about, oh, I bet you wish I was a boy, or do you wish I was a boy, or you probably something, and he says to you, no, if you were a boy, we wouldn't be having these conversations, as often, or something, joke, and then you must have replied, and he replied to you, since you came into my life, I've never been more happy. and we started our 2-week vacation with those words. Haley, I could have cried. It was so much pain, so much. He didn't realize he's at the birth of all 3 of our children, and I never heard words like that. So you can appreciate how I was just, I can't take this. It was very hard. And with all that said, I reunion is hard. and, and I think if it wasn't for my faith, or if I wasn't, I was convicted that I was supposed to welcome you into this family, and so it was. I knew that was what I was called to do, and so I wasn't going to turn my back on that. The process was really hard, and maybe it's a good thing I had that conviction, because it would have been easier to pull the plug many times. Nobody likes to experience the pain, and all I remembered was I really at the very beginning, Haley. It was your name it would bring pain. It was just angry, you poor thing.
And thank goodness your neighbor's dog was named Haley. So you heard my name all the time.
No, it was just, and I knew it was never you, because I couldn't have asked for a more lovely person, and so empathetic and caring. So I think I shudder to think, if you weren't like that, what would have happened, because I melted every time we were together, and every time we talked on the phone, and there was certainly all that, but when I would know the times your dad was talking to you alone, I would be in the house stewing and upset, and I was, why is this happening why am I jealous? It's ridiculous. I didn't want to be jealous, I didn't want to feel these stupid emotions. Where were they coming from? But of course, it leads to growth. And I know that. Today I know that. In the moment, it's always pretty difficult. And you know that. I mean, gosh, I don't have to tell you how painful.
Well, I think we should talk about June's rules a little bit, because I think now that you're saying these things, I'm like, oh my goodness, like these rules, she was telling me, oh, these rules are to, help your and Nick's marriage and blah, blah, blah. But it was also to help you guys and specifically you, like,
Haley, it totally was. Absolutely. It was all for me.
yeah. So some of the rules were like, okay, so Dad and I we were literally emailing every single day and sometimes multiple times a day, and then texting, and like there was like, it was constant. And I don't think it was that frequent with the kids, but it was certainly frequent enough, depending on who, which one. Anyway, so one of the rules was like, what, one email a week or something. And then phone calls, I think, were supposed to be you together, right?
Yes.
We, all three of us would be on the phone. If I called, I would talk with you and Dad at the same time. And
Yeah.
there was it like no texting or?
Yes, you're right. You know what, Haley? There was no texting because I remember Nick texting your dad at the football game, and you said, "Dad, you're not supposed to text." It was
Yeah.
kind of, there was no texting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
So totally, yes. What else?
I don't know. I don't know if I have the sheet printed out anymore because I was pretty mad at that.
Oh, yes.
That list.
And that was one of the things that we wanted to honor your reunion processing as well, you know? And and like June was saying, we couldn't burden you with what was going on with me because you already felt bad enough. You know, there was not, because it was not you, you know, there was certainly, yeah. June also, there was, I was worried when you kept coming to see us and you weren't seeing your mom and dad. So that was one of the other rules, that you couldn't come and see us if your mom and dad didn't get a visit also, or something close to that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be equal time. Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was something. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. And it was certainly, it was for me. It was to save our relationship together because June understood what was going on in
Right.
my world, and
Yeah.
it was all overwhelming and all consuming.
Yeah, and she never told me any of that, right? I mean, she's a therapist. She can't disclose to me what's happening with you guys and vice versa. But okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And that saved our relationship. It brought peace again into the house, and it was, you know, it made it harder for you. And I remembered it was hard. And I think that was maybe the time, Haley, that I was thinking, oh my gosh, who is this girl? You know, because it brought on, it was so stressful. You know, you had us all the time, and then to not, and that, oh my goodness. And it was for Nick's. I bet you it was certainly for your relationship as well. If I was feeling it,
oh yeah,
Nick had to be feeling it too. We were total outsiders watching this dynamic, this very unnatural dynamic father-daughter stuff going on, and it was, oh my gosh. And then some dear soul who was also an adoptee, I thought reunion or the honeymoon period would be, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months. Someone told me it would be 2 years. That also added in August. I couldn't imagine this going on for another year and a half. Do you know what I mean? I was sort of waiting for that honeymoon period to finish. And I thought, okay, you know what? It's coming. I'm sure it's coming. And then when someone told me it was 2 years, I remembered feeling really concerned. And I didn't think, and you know, when I say I would have pulled the plug, I likely wouldn't have, Haley, but June made sure to put something in place that would bring me peace. And that's exactly what happened. Oh, and it was so much better. Yeah, it really was so much better.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I mean, that was our very most turbulent time out of all of it. And, you know, the kids were still minors, and I think we really tried to shield them from knowing any of the drama was going on.
Yeah.
But do you want to talk a little bit about that? Like how that shifted? Because you're being a mom to these, you know, I'm story, you know, at the time, right? They're really young kids, and
Yeah.
this is big emotional shifts, and to find out, oh, my dad had like something different about my dad that's very unexpected, and right? I mean, again, you're pretty religious family, and this is kind of a surprise to hear. So
it was. So I think I have the freedom to say their names. Hey, have you said their names on the air?
I never do. That's your choice. I never do.
That's fine. I think I asked Amy's permission earlier to share her reaction, because of the three, hers was really negative. We told the kids at the dinner table, and wow, how do you deliver news like this? It's just, one will wonder. And I'm pretty sure, well, it was for sure your dad who said the news. And as an aside, Haley, I want to mention, it kind of bothered me at first, but I know why he did it this way. He never once said, oh, I made a mistake, or back in my, never. You were never introduced as a mistake. And I remember thinking, why didn't he say, even because this kind of religious family, you want to kind of share with the kids, you shouldn't have been doing what you were doing, until you were married, whatever. He brought none of that up. He said, he simply stated, that you were his daughter, and so that you were looking, or you found him, and that we would like you guys to meet her too, and it is sort of that way. So yeah, Daniel, Sarah was only 9, so she was just too young. She was, I think, both of them. Sarah was excited. Dan was seemed to think that was all right. Amy left the table, and I think it was just after dinner. She didn't say much, but yeah, that she went to her room and she bawled and she cried and she cried. And I asked, what was wrong, and she had no words. She couldn't tell me what was wrong. She just wept and wept, and so that was hard, because what do you do with that? And oh my gosh. And so the emotions, and I remembered Sarah being at the table, knowing that Amy was weeping in her bedroom. She looked at me and she says, Mom, is this a bad thing? She's so confused.
Yeah,
she doesn't know that this, all the implications about this. So that was, so it took Amy longer to warm up to the idea. That's her nature anyway. She takes long to warm up to people in general. So that was the unfortunate part about the June rules in August, because I think you guys had just finally gotten into a nice relationship back and forth, and you were learning about each other, and then bam, the rules came. Amy said that was so hard on her, because she had just...
Because I think I had to email the kids all through the family account.
Yes, you did.
Okay, because it had been, they all had their personal emails.
That's right.
And this way you guys could see what was happening. Yeah.
And really, and there's wisdom in that as well, just based on an adoptee's world and all the things I think that you were going through, Haley. It prevented codependency, on them, and it made it so that you guys would have a good, healthy relationship as well. June really thought that was important, and that wasn't even because it was a lot. She just said, oh no, that has to stop right now. And so that was why. So that was hard. Amy, in asking her permission to tell her side of the story, she explained to me about, so I'm having a little difficulty with it at first. I warm up and I start, I fall in love with Haley, and then boom, our relationship has to end as well. Or it appeared. It didn't end, but it appeared, the freedom to email or text. Well, she didn't have text then. But anyway, Yeah, so the kids, they're resilient though, not Amy too. And so it was really easy to embrace you. And of course it was really easy to embrace your dad. It was I remembered Haley going to my chiropractor. I'm telling, I'm telling all the I told most people about you or stories, and he says, "Oh, let me guess. You're the least excited about this?" Yeah, that would be right. And people from the outside looking in, they get it, and I know, and there would be things, Haley, like what will trigger this sort of frustration for me through the years would be the times where we would have gone to your church would be one example. And the pastors and the this and then that, they're all going to your dad.
Yep.
Oh, you are so amazing. Oh, look what you've done. Oh my God. And I'm standing there going, oh my, I could just about die. And it was those types. And I I I I've learned so much about myself too, Haley.
Mm.
Like, do I do things just to get the reward of love and appreciation back?
Hmm.
Because ultimately we should never we need to do things and love others without with oh my gosh. I've just so much has been revealed about really who I am and how I deal with. But things like that were hard for me. It was like, you guys, oh, and I would just look at your dad and think and become so angry at him. Like, how dare you do this to me? You and then you get all the reward, you get all the love from Haley, you get all the love from Nick, you get everything, and I get nothing and not no thanks, no, you know what I mean? And it was just I remembered and so it would be up and down like that. And that would make things a little bit harder because obviously, I didn't no one can understand as I didn't understand the depth of pain in the world of an adoptee. Who could understand what this was for me to become the stepmom and have really have no choice but to embrace, somebody into the family, and it just became that no one can understand that unless you've lived through it too,
Yep.
So that's all.
So you could start a podcast for and this is very niche, very, very niche, but just a thought. Okay, so we're obviously in a better place now. We've talked through some all the dirty laundry. I mean
Yes.
that I'm talking about on air. I think I'm maxed out. Okay, from dirty laundry.
Totally get it.
What have we done to get to a good place? We're 7.5 years in, and I think we're pretty good friends, and we've shared lots of, personal things with each other. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know when the rules just faded away, but they just kind of naturally just went away.
Yeah. Yeah. Things it naturally got easier after the honeymoon period ended. I mean, it just because everything that was all consuming. So it was easy to just, after you having your own children and all, they're so adorable and things just naturally progressed. I know initially we made a point of scheduling calls together, to build our own relationship. And there was a time, Haley, I don't know if you ever felt it, but there came a point that I didn't need you to love me the same anymore, as your dad, or I I came to a point in my own journey and my own healing that it was okay that you could love of course he's your dad, and and that made a big difference because I still wish, it was a little easier for you, because I recognize now how I had pushed pushed you kind of to accept me equally as, as your dad. And in my brain, I thought it was logical. We were both meeting you at the same time, so I felt naturally you're going to love me too. Just like what we were both, you know. But it's interesting. Biology is interesting. Like, genetics is, you can't act like it does play a part in the end. As minor as it makes perfect sense. Whether or not over, in 20 years, because it won't matter anyway. Do you love your dad more than me? Or that's ridiculous. But when it suddenly didn't matter, it's easy for that stuff to happen naturally, when it's not being pushed. As the same I've noticed in the last few years, both you and your dad, I don't know if you talked about it, I don't know how it changed, but you two have stopped pushing. Just pushing, even though they were gentle pushes, but it was just the pushing to make this a family unit, and we want to do things, that. And it it has taken, it's made things very easy. It's easier for me, certainly. And I've stopped with expecting things. And I think maybe you've stopped expecting certain things as well. And we've come to a very beautiful place, in our relationship, where once you take away the expectations, it naturally grows and, is good. So what we've done is, I think we've worked on ourselves enough that, through our own personal counseling and healing and things, to come to a place. Well, no. That would have never affected your relationship with me. But I've come to that place where my healing has allowed me to go, oh my gosh, and to come to a place, Haley, to in the very, very end, to be able to look back on the beginnings of the reunion and the reunion in general, and go, this was the greatest thing that could have happened to our family. And I'm there now, with that. But it takes time to get there, and because I can look at your dad and go, oh my gosh, he has changed so beautifully, because what you allowed, you broke the dam, and you allowed these feelings, these suppressed feelings that he's had for so decades. It all came out, and he's become a more loving husband, and a more loving father to Daniel, Amy, and Sarah. And I couldn't ask, like, I don't know where it would have been. So I see such a beauty, such a change, and the girls, how much they love you, and like, they just, I know, you're an amazing mentor to them, and so all of those things, it's fantastic. So you brought such joy into our family. So yeah, I just need to end with that. It's if people can persevere through the hard times, because the pain always will lead to something good if our intentions are pure, and I wanted to embrace so badly. I just couldn't some days. It was just so painful.
Mm-hmm.
And Haley, something as simple as, just weird things, like, you're really talented, and you're a reader, and you've got all these amazing, you're a sense of humor, and so obviously it's the weirdest things that will happen. It's like, oh my gosh, well, my kids are like that too. It's not me. Just me. I did nothing for this family. Like, I am just so unimportant. It was awful. Like, how does the brain work that way? Those things, right? I wish, sometimes you were, different, but you're not. And I thought, oh, for Pete's sakes, that's not from my side of the family. I can't even offer a good genetic pool. Like, it's all coming from.
Well, how about this? Your side wasn't passing down the celiac, so.
I'm so right about that. Oh my goodness. But it's just ridiculous things like that. And so it's just
that's so
terms
funny.
to understanding, like,
Mhm.
yes, so my worth, all of that came into question. And so for every single other mother out there who these are all natural emotions. And the worst part about it is that, all these emotions are probably coming alongside, an amazing reunion and all the other emotions and dealing. Oh my gosh. So it can be really quite interesting and quite a roller coaster, but it's worth persevering and just working through,
Well, that's pretty good. And so, I mean, I guess I thought that instead of doing recommended resources with you, that we would just try and give a little bit of advice, which I guess we've kind of done throughout the interview. But why don't you first talk to an adoptee like me who has searched and reached out to a father, and they know that there is some strain. This is putting a strain on the relationship with their biological father and their partner.
I think undoubtedly I would tell them to seek counseling, professional counseling. It made such a difference for me and for, your dad, and for you and for Nick, and for the relationship to build. So yeah, I can say all the other things like go slow, be easy, do all, but it's really impossible. Like, how do you guys do that? You simply in the moment. I understand all of that now. Oh, and that's another thing. Maybe an adoptee like yourself, if they were searching, what you did was so amazing by giving us things to read, by blogging. When I had an inside view into what you were going through, well, it was totally made the biggest difference for me as well. Suddenly my own issues were nothing. And I think by sharing your heart with the spouse, which, will be the wife, would be really, really important to do, because
yeah, what is something that is there anything that I could have said to you to help alleviate some of your fears? Is there something that I could have like, obviously it sounded like to me, if I had been trying to invest more in the relationship with you, but under the circumstances, I mean, that just wasn't on the radar, like, just, so yeah.
totally understand. So you know what, Haley, I really believe that looking back, there was nothing you could have done. There was nothing you could have said. It was just emotions that I had to deal with. So the saving grace in our relationship was we did seek professional help that implemented, certain structure to help us get through those things. Yeah, it was. You know what? Maybe, other wives aren't as broken as I was. I don't know. I do know, fellow. I remember feeling so bonded with you very, very quickly, because although I do not have the trauma of the adoptee experience, which I do know is the worst, there was a brokenness in me that you saw, and I saw it in you, and that really bonded us. Like, I really felt protective of you, and I felt for all those times. So there was really nothing. that you could have said or done. It was the way things have played out. And that's why it's really important for you to know, Haley, it was never you. It was the idea. It was always the idea. I couldn't have all the things that you did were perfect because it allowed me in those moments just to see this very vulnerable, because you were very vulnerable. That would be something I would advise if it's possible for these dear adoptees, who've been through so much already, to be vulnerable. It's really probably necessary, because if the wife does not see that vulnerability, she sees a threat, and that is what also really helped me to see how vulnerable you were. And when you did your blog, I saw it, and oh my goodness, and I just wanted to do the mother thing, right? And embrace and welcome, and that really helped. Yeah. And so,
and then the other thing that you did, you've said repeatedly, like, you just had to keep choosing, like, I'm in this, I'm going to love her,
yes,
even if it doesn't feel good right now.
It's so true.
Okay. So reading a lot, going through counseling. I don't know if you can find someone online that's going through a similar circumstance or not. But it's hard to like find someone who's like in the same time period as you are of reunion, right? Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
That probably would have really helped for you to have someone else to talk to. Like, oh my gosh, can you believe how crazy this is? So
yeah. And it would have been, and that's okay. I mean, it all worked out in the end. So even I remembered blogging, or not blogging. Sorry, I Googled stepmoms, or but there's it's a little niche, like you said. It's so tiny, but I tried that.
Well, even deciding what to call you.
Oh, I know.
Like, but are you a stepmom?
I know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And whatever.
It's
Mom.
so true.
Okay.
and that has, that's been very beautiful. It's been very beautiful. And so, and I really, really, it means a lot that you're willing to call me mom, and that has helped really solidify. Yeah, so good. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing.
You are most welcome.
I love you so much, and I can't imagine my life without you. And as much as we've gone through, it's really bonded us together more, right?
I know, absolutely, Haley. Yeah, and we truly are blessed. You've been a huge blessing in our lives. And Nick, we love Nick. He's just the best. And then now with the boys, so we're great blessing.
You get to be Grammy and Poppy. That's a whole new thing. You get to be very young grandparents, so that's like,
yes, we do.
So fun.
That's right. Yeah, we can still crawl on the floor with them and go on the play structures. It's been great.
Oh, that's so good. Well, thanks so much for sharing with us and for just opening up your heart to people. And I think it'll be really helpful for other people to understand the other side of it. If you want to send a message to Mom or Linda to thank her for being on the show, or if you have questions for her about her experience, she welcomes that. And you just need to send them through me and I will forward them on. So you can find me on social media at Adoptees on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, or if you go to adopteeson.com/connect, you can just fill out the little form there and that'll send an email right to me that I can forward on to her. I'm so glad that we were able to have that conversation and to share it with you. And I also asked my brother if I could ask him a couple more questions about his experience. So let's listen in to that. Okay, Daniel, what was your first reaction when Mom and Dad told you guys about me?
Well, I remember it was the most awkward dinner conversation of all time. um, yeah, I don't really know. I think it was like, yeah, I was just pretty shocked. Like, it wasn't super expected. So I think I wasn't even able to process emotion properly at the moment. But I remember it was super awkward and everyone was kind of like, what?
Well, and then what does that mean for you? Like, there's another person, but what does that mean?
Yeah, that's so, like, such a true thing. I think, like, after the initial shock, like, I was really excited about it. But just that initial, like, what does that mean? What's going on?
Okay, and how old were you then?
14, I think.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that seems right. Okay, so one of the things Mom shared with me that I did not know was that when she was saying yes to a reunion, what she thought she was saying yes to was sending some photos. Of course, she would like to know probably some medical history, maybe a family tree, but not necessarily like a relationship. And like Haley is in the family in some way. What were you kind of picturing once you got over the shock?
Yeah, I think once I got over the shock, probably something, definitely not that. I had no idea Mom thought that. That's so funny. No, I think something like more like what we're doing now. Like I envisioned relationship of some kind, I think, and of course, being 14 and like kind of clueless. I had no idea what that was going to look like.
Yeah.
But I think thought there'd be something.
Okay. Yeah. And so what have been the hard parts about adjusting to this? And also, what are some of the good things?
I think some of the hard things, like particularly like after Isaiah was born, I think it was kind of difficult for me to figure out like what does it now mean to be an uncle who doesn't necessarily like, I haven't known you for that long. We really like, we know each other well, but not in the same way as if we grew up together kind of thing. So I think that was one of the hardest things, was kind of looking at kind of my aunts and uncles and being like, well, how am I the same? I'm also, of course, quite not similar in age to Isaiah, but quite a bit closer in age than any of my other aunts and uncles. So I didn't necessarily have anyone to look to. So I think that was something that was kind of hard. And I think, just figuring out like what my relationship looks like with you and the boys, like kind of outside of the context of family. Because of course, I'm 21 right now, and the last 6 or 7 years, like I've been pretty busy, and the family will Skype and I won't be home, and I won't be home the next time or the time after. So I think figuring out that has been kind of hard. But good things, like so many good things. Honestly, when I think of the hard things, they're just kind of, not that big of a deal. But I think it's awesome, to have you around and the boys around, and it's so cool. Like it's been actually such a cool journey over the last 7 years. So
I think so too.
Yeah,
thanks. And I think we're doing a lot better in the last 6 months, being more connected intentionally. And I think that's helped our relationship.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So, cool. Thanks. Anything else you want to say?
I don't think so. Okay. Thanks for interviewing me. I appreciate it.
It's fun. Thanks.
Good times.
Well, that was so real and vulnerable and raw, and I hope that by showing you some of the ugly parts of our reunion, that you will feel not alone, and that you will have some hope that if you put enough work and heart and effort and therapy and all of those things, that you can make it through to the other side as well. Yeah, I hope that was really helpful. And I was so anxious to do it, but I'm so, so glad we had that conversation. And I learned a lot of new information listening to that, just like you did. So that's good. It's like I'm a listener too. Okay, speaking of listening, I want to give you a bonus recommended resource, because there's a new podcast I want to tell you about. But I also just want to remind you that book club is starting with Nicole Chung. And you guys, this is totally an amazing opportunity. It's a free book club. We're reading Nicole's brand new memoir, All You Can Ever Know. And she's going to be with us in a live chat on November 3rd. I don't know if you know this, but it's kind of a big deal. She was just on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. I don't know if you caught it, but she was so great. She shared a tiny bit of her story and about how important it is to talk about race in transracial adoptions. And it was awesome. So, like, adoptee voices getting out there, if that's important to you, go watch that clip of her with Trevor Noah. So it's so good. And this is a way we can support her work, and further the adoptee voice. So join the book club. You can do that by going to our Facebook page, Adoptees on Podcast, and just click request to join the book club group. And we're going to be done in like couple weeks. It's just a pop-up, so there's no huge time commitment, but make sure you register for that right away. And the recommended resource I want to give you is called the Cut Off Genes podcast. So it's a fairly recent podcast. There's maybe 20 some episodes up at the time I'm recording this. And it is for anyone that's very interested in doing DNA testing or genealogy research and figuring out your family tree online. If you are searching for family, all of those things, they are telling stories, their own personal stories, and they're also giving actual advice to listeners who maybe have hit a roadblock in their search. And so, yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, if you're really into genealogy, this would be a great one for you to check out. So it's called Cut Off Genes Podcast, and genes as in GENES jeans, not, the shorts, Cut Off Jeans shorts. But the picture is Cut Off Jean shorts. So that's the wordplay there. Yeah, so I wanted to give you that as my recommended resource for you. And as always, a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I could not do the show without you. I'm so thankful for your support. If you want to join and support the podcast on the monthly basis, you can go to adopteeson.com/partner to find out details of how you can join and the benefits that you'll receive for being a monthly supporter. And I'm just so grateful and excited. I'm excited because next week is our season 4 finale. You're not going to want to miss that episode, I guarantee you. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And let's talk again next Friday.